If you've ever stopped for gas at 2 in the morning and felt like you should just wait until sunrise, trust that feeling. I didn't, and it's the reason I don't drive at night anymore. I was 26, driving back from my cousin's wedding in Reno, heading home to Sacramento. It was late October. I'd been on the road for almost 4 hours and my tank light had been blinking for the last 20 miles. There wasn't much out there. Just flat highway, dead fields, and the occasional glow of a sign in the distance. I finally saw one. A gas station off Route 80, one of those old independent ones, not a chain, with a single flickering light over the pumps and a small convenience store attached. The parking lot was empty, except for one truck parked way off to the side. No plates that I could see from where I pulled in. I remember thinking it was strange that a place like this stayed open all night, but I needed gas, so I didn't think much of it. I got out, swiped my card at the pump, and it didn't work. Tried again. Declined. I checked my bank app, saw the money was there, so it had to be the machine. I looked toward the store and saw a guy behind the counter, maybe in his 50s, watching me through the window. He didn't wave, didn't come out, just watched. I walked in to pay cash. The bell above the door gave this thin, tired jingle, and the smell hit me first, something like old coffee and bleach, way too much bleach, like someone had just finished scrubbing something down. The lights buzzed. One of them stuttered every few seconds. "Pump's broken," the man said before I even spoke. His voice was flat, almost rehearsed. "Pay here." I handed him 2 20s for pump 3, and he counted them slow, like he was stalling. I noticed his hands were shaking slightly. While he counted, I glanced around the store. It was cluttered, dusty, shelves half empty like it hadn't been restocked in months. And there was a door behind the counter, slightly open, leading to what I guessed was a back room or office. I could hear something from in there. A low hum, mechanical, like a freezer or a generator running. Then I heard it, a voice, muffled, coming from behind that door. A man's voice, and he said one word clear enough for me to catch it. "Please." The man's eyes flicked toward the door for half a second, and then locked back on me, and he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile people give you when they're trying to convince you that you didn't just hear what you heard. "TV," he said, "forgot to turn it off." I nodded like I believed him, because honestly, some part of my brain was already telling me to just get back in my car. But another part, the stupid part, the part that didn't want to be rude or paranoid, made me stay standing there another few seconds. That's when I saw it. Taped to the inside of the counter, half hidden under a stack of receipts, was a missing persons flyer. A young man, maybe early 20s, smiling in the photo. The date on it said he'd gone missing 3 weeks earlier, last seen along this stretch of highway. I looked up at him. He was still smiling, but his jaw had tightened. "You should get your gas," he said. "Pump's on now." I didn't argue. I walked out slow, forcing my legs to move at a normal pace even though every instinct in me was screaming to run. I got to the pump, and this time it worked. I kept glancing at the store window. He was still standing there, hands on the counter, watching me pump gas like it was the only thing in the world he cared about. I finished, capped the tank, and got in the car. I didn't peel out because I didn't want to give him a reason to think I was scared, or worse, to think I'd seen something I shouldn't have. I pulled out onto the highway at a normal speed, and it wasn't until the gas station disappeared from my rearview mirror that I let myself press the gas down harder. About 2 miles down the road, I saw headlights come up fast behind me, way too fast for an empty highway at 3 in the morning. I sped up. The lights sped up too, and closed the distance fast enough that I could see it was a truck, the same one that had been parked off to the side of the station. I did the only thing I could think of. I took the next exit, even though I had no idea where it led, hoping he'd stay on the highway. He didn't. He followed me off. I found myself on a narrow county road with no streetlights, no houses, nothing but trees on either side. My phone had 1 bar of signal. I dialed 911 with shaking hands and told the dispatcher where I was, what I'd seen, the gas station, the flyer, the voice behind the door. She told me to keep driving, stay on the line, and that a unit was already in the area. The truck stayed behind me for another 4 minutes. 4 minutes that felt like an hour. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it slowed down, made a U-turn, and disappeared back the way it came. I kept driving until I saw actual houses, actual streetlights, and I didn't stop until I reached a 24-hour diner 2 towns over, where I sat in the parking lot until it was bright enough outside that the dark didn't feel like it was pressing in on the windows anymore. The police did go out to that gas station. I found out weeks later, through a local news update my cousin sent me, that they found signs someone had been kept in that back room. The man was arrested. The missing man from the flyer was found alive, in a hospital 2 counties over. I think about that flyer sometimes, about how close I came to just getting back in my car and driving off like nothing happened, telling myself I imagined that voice. If I had, I don't think anyone would have ever found him. I still stop for gas during the day now. No exceptions. And if I ever hear someone say please from behind a closed door, I'm not walking away this time. It was a Tuesday night, late October, and I was driving back from my cousin's place in Ohio, heading home to Pennsylvania. 3.5 hours into the drive, my low fuel light came on. I wasn't worried. I'd passed a dozen gas stations already. But the next stretch of highway was different, dark, no billboards, no exits for miles. By the time I saw a station, my tank was basically fumes. It was just a single building with 2 pumps and a flickering sign that said open, even though half the letters were burnt out. The parking lot was empty except for 1 car, a sedan, parked crooked near the edge, like whoever left it didn't care where it landed. I pulled up to the pump, got out, and immediately felt how quiet it was. I swiped my card, started fueling, and looked toward the store. The lights were on inside, but I didn't see anyone moving. That's when I noticed the door was propped open with a rock. Just slightly, maybe 6 inches. In late October, in Pennsylvania. Nobody props a door open like that unless they want airflow or unless they left in a hurry and didn't think about it. I told myself it was nothing. Gas stations are weird places at night. People do weird things. I finished fueling, and because I needed a coffee to stay awake, I walked inside. The bell above the door didn't ring. I remember that specifically because I looked up at it, expecting the sound, and it just stayed still, like the wire had been cut or the batteries were dead. The inside of the store was normal, shelves of chips, a coffee machine humming in the corner, a cooler full of drinks, but there was no one behind the counter. I called out, "Hello." My voice sounded too loud in that empty space. Nothing. I waited maybe 30 seconds, which doesn't sound long, but standing alone in a lit convenience store at 2 a.m., 30 seconds feels like an hour. I walked toward the counter to see if maybe the clerk had just stepped into a back room. That's when I saw it, a phone lying on the floor behind the register, screen cracked, still lit up. Not shattered from being dropped by accident, cracked in a way that looked like it had been thrown or stepped on hard. I stood there staring at it, and my first instinct, the dumb, human instinct, was to pick it up and see whose it was. But something in me said don't touch anything. I don't know how to explain that feeling, except that it was the loudest thought I've ever had. I backed away from the counter, and that's when I heard it. A sound from the back of the store past the cooler doors, where a hallway led to what I assumed was a stockroom or an employee bathroom. It wasn't footsteps. It was breathing. Slow, deliberate, like someone trying very hard to keep it quiet and not quite managing it. I turned around and walked straight for the door, forcing myself not to run, because some part of my brain thought running would provoke whatever was breathing back there. I got outside. I walked fast to my car, got in, locked the doors, and sat there for a second with my hands shaking on the wheel. I looked back at the store window. The lights were still on. Nothing moved. I should have just left. I know that now. But I made the mistake of glancing at that crooked sedan parked near the edge of the lot, and I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The driver's side door was slightly open, just like the store's front door had been. Not slammed shut, not locked, just left ajar like someone had gotten out in a hurry and never came back to close it. That detail is the one that still keeps me up some nights, because two doors left open like that isn't a coincidence. Someone left that car in a rush. Someone left that register in a rush. And the breathing I heard told me that whatever happened here, it wasn't finished yet. I didn't call the police right away. My hands were shaking too hard to think straight. And honestly, my first thought was just get out of here. I pulled out of that lot so fast my tires actually screeched on the pavement, something I'd never done in my life. About 10 minutes down the road, once my heart rate came down enough to think clearly, I called 911 and told them everything: the open doors, the cracked phone, the breathing. The dispatcher asked me to describe the location as best I could, and I did, though it was hard since I never even caught the station's name. She told me a unit would check it out. I never heard back with details. I called the local police non-emergency line a few days later, and they confirmed a unit had responded, but they couldn't share information about an active situation with someone who wasn't involved in the incident itself. That's it. That's all I know. No news story ever surfaced that I could find. No missing persons report that matched. Just an empty gas station, two open doors, a cracked phone on the floor, and someone breathing in the dark who never came out to see who else was there. I still think about the drive I would have taken if my tank hadn't been empty. I think about how close I came to just topping off the tank outside and skipping the store altogether. And I think about that breathing, slow and controlled, like whoever it was knew exactly how to stay hidden. If you've ever driven alone at night and pulled into a gas station that felt just a little too quiet, I need you to listen to this before you ever do it again. I was driving back from my work meeting, somewhere around 11 at night. I wanted coffee before the last stretch home. My gas gauge was low too, hovering just above empty, so when I saw the glow of a station up ahead, I felt relieved. One of those old stations, with a flickering sign that just said, "Gas, Food, Ice." I pulled in. There was one other car there, a dark green sedan parked near the air pump, like whoever left it hadn't cared how it looked. No one was in it. I didn't think much of that at the time. People leave cars in weird spots all the time. I got out, swiped my card at the pump, and started filling up. That's when the station door opened and a guy walked out. Maybe mid-30s, flannel shirt despite the heat, holding a plastic bag. He didn't look at me. He walked straight to the green sedan, opened the driver's door, and just sat there. Didn't start the engine. Didn't do anything. Just sat in the dark car with the door shut. I remember thinking that was strange, but you know how it is. You're tired. You're half in your own head. You let things slide past you that you probably shouldn't. I finished pumping gas and went inside to grab that coffee. The guy behind the counter was maybe 60, thin, reading glasses pushed up on his forehead, watching an old TV with the volume down low. He nodded at me. I nodded back. Ordinary as anything. I poured my coffee, grabbed a candy bar, and when I set it on the counter, the old man looked past me out the window toward the green sedan. His face changed. Just slightly. The kind of look you give when you recognize something you wish you didn't. He said, "You didn't park next to him, did you?" I told him no, I was on the other side by pump 3. He nodded slowly and rang me up without saying anything else. I paid, I said goodnight, and I walked back out into that thick, warm air. The green sedan was still there, door still shut. I could see the guy's silhouette through the windshield, just sitting, facing forward, hands probably on the wheel. I couldn't tell for sure in the dark. I got in my car. I remember locking the doors out of habit, not really out of fear yet. I started the engine and began pulling out of the lot. That's when the sedan's headlights came on. Not the engine, just the headlights. Bright, aimed right through my back windshield, lighting up my whole car like daylight for a second. I told myself he was just checking his phone, or he'd bumped the wrong switch, something explainable like that. I pulled onto Route 9 and started driving. The headlights stayed behind me. For the first mile, I figured we were just going the same direction. Roads like that, there's really only one way to go if you're heading toward the highway. But then I slowed down at a stop sign that most locals would blow through this late at night, and he slowed down too. Way too much, way too matched to mine. I sped up, he sped up. I want to be clear, this wasn't some movie chase. It was worse than that because it was so mundane. He never got close enough to tailgate me. He never flashed his lights or honked. He just stayed a consistent distance back, like he was pacing me, like he was studying how I drove. My hands were sweating on the wheel. I thought about calling 911, but what would I even say? A car is behind me on a public road. I knew how that would sound. About 4 miles down, there's a gas station and a diner combo, one of those 24-hour truck stop places with actual light and actual people. I made the decision fast. I hit my blinker and swerved into that lot harder than I should have, tires screeching a little on the turn. The green sedan didn't follow me in. It just kept going straight down Route 9, taillights shrinking into the dark like nothing had happened at all. I sat in that truck stop parking lot for almost 20 minutes with the doors locked, engine running, watching the road. My coffee had gone cold in the cup holder. My hands wouldn't stop shaking even after the adrenaline should have worn off. Eventually, I went inside, told the guy at the counter I just needed a minute, and he let me sit in a booth without asking questions. Small towns are good like that sometimes. I called my dad, told him what happened. He said the same thing everyone says, that I did the right thing, that I should have called the police, that maybe it was nothing. And maybe it was nothing. Maybe the guy really did have somewhere to be that happened to be my direction for 4 miles at my exact speed. People tell me that all the time when I bring this up. But here's the part that stays with me. When I got home that night, shaking, exhausted, I looked up that gas station out of pure curiosity, just to see if it had reviews or anything online. Buried in the reviews from almost 2 years earlier, someone had written about a nearly identical experience. Different car, different description of the man, but the same station, the same headlights turning on right as they pulled out, the same slow followed drive down Route 9. The review had 6 replies under it, all from different people, all describing some version of the same thing. I don't stop at that station anymore. I go the long way now, even though it adds 15 minutes to my drive. And if I ever see a car sitting in a lot with someone just sitting inside it, not doing anything, not going anywhere, I don't wait around to find out why. That's 3 gas station horror stories. If these stories keep you on edge, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the next terrifying upload. Drop a like if you made it to the end, and let us know in the comments which story scared you the most. Stay safe out there, lock your doors, and remember, the scariest stories are the ones that could actually happen to you. See you in the next one.